Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to the Black Financial Channel. Today, I was thinking about these versus battles that have taken place on the internet. Swizz Beats and Timbaland started Versus, and it's one of those things that's breaking the internet. In fact, I think they won an award called Break the Internet. And one of the things that crossed my brain today, and I thought I would think out loud on this and get you guys feedback on it, is how do versus battles make money? Who owns it? And what exactly is the future of this growing enterprise. So I'm going to break some of this down for you on the Black Financial Channel. Get comfortable, hit the thumbs up button, and we're going to get started right now. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to both drboycetv.com and the Black Financial Channel. Our goal is to talk about wealth and investing and economics from a Black perspective. So one of you asked me about these versus battles, and the versus battles are pretty interesting. I've seen them all over the internet. They tend to break the internet. And of course, a versus battle between two rappers is always going to be more interesting than hearing a professor run his mouth. And even though I'm not a rapper, maybe I can rap a little bit about something that some of you have thought about or paid attention to. Anyway, do me a favor. Let me know. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm in a funny place where the audio might seem funny, but I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, so here's what is going on. So Versus is built on it's not really a versus type situation. It's not really a contest. It's laid out that way, but a versus battle, it's really just kind of this great, celebration of extraordinary artists that we respect in the community. I think it's really cool. I think that it's awesome. The Swizz Beats and Timbaland came up with this. It's very successful, obviously. And so I was really curious. I said, who owns this thing? I think those are questions that Black people should always ask when it comes to things that came out of our community, our culture, things that came from who we are. Because you guys know, we used to own hip hop. We created hip hop, and then that was kind of taken out from under us. So I was really curious about verses in terms of I figured who would be involved, and I could kind of tell who was involved, but I wanted to know, who really is running this thing, who really owns this thing. And so Swizz Beats and Timbaland came up in my research, and those two guys seem to be the bosses of this versus thing, and it's doing really great, and I'm really happy for them. Now, one of the things that I read an article, and this was I think on BET.com, where they were kind of saying that that yes, we own this and we don't want to monetize this right away, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't believe that part. I maybe things have changed since that time, but I believe Versus is definitely monetized. I believe it's definitely monetized, even if they didn't sell it yet. The reason I think it's monetized is because I've seen these corporate sponsors kind of popping up during the versus battles. Whenever you see a corporation in an event, whenever whether it's Apple Music involved or Tidal or who are involved, or you might see if you see Coke or Pepsi or any corporation popped in, that means there's some money that's exchanging hands behind closed doors. Also, if when you see these politicians popping through, give me a yes or no if you've seen this. If you ever wondered, like, okay, why is Kamala Harris at a versus battle? Anybody remember when Kamala Harris just kind of popped in out of nowhere at the versus battle, where they would literally, I guess, try to make Black people feel like they have to go vote for certain candidates. And a lot of people thought that was weird. They said it's awkward, and she doesn't fit. Why is she here? This is corny. And Swizz Beats and Timbaland are both smart guys, so I'm sure they knew that Kamala Harris would be an awkward fit. I think she said she smoked weed listening to Tupac back in 1988, right? So Stacey Abrams, that was another one. Thank you, Idea. Yeah, so when these politicians start popping in, that means that money's exchanging hands also. A lot of politicians pretty much wet the pockets of Black-owned media when they're trying to go sort of corral Black votes. So a lot of urban radio stations, for example, if you go on a big urban radio station and you talk about politics right around election time, you're really not allowed to talk about anything other than the leading Democrat. If you're not if your words are not in favor of the leading Democrat, then they'll boot you off. because everybody responds to the people that are paying their money. And I know these. I mean, I can identify these things easily because you guys know I'm an expert on money, and I like to talk about money. I want you to understand money so you'll understand how money controls a lot of what you see. A lot of things you see that seem organic and authentic and everything else are actually, there's actually financial maneuvers being sort of pulled, and a lot of people don't see these levers being pulled behind the scenes. So without going into too much of this, Versus is doing really well. I think that the biggest Versus, I think, got 6 million views. I think the Monica and Brandy, if I'm not mistaken, got 6 million views. They've had some really good ones on. I don't watch this stuff, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and listen to two people go back and forth with music that I can easily listen to on Spotify. I'm not gonna lie, all right. Like if I want to hear, like, my favorite rappers actually are T.I. and Ice Cube, right? If I want to hear T.I. and Ice Cube, I don't need to watch a Versus to see that. I can just turn on Spotify, right? So I don't understand the Versus concept so much in the sense that I guess it tells me that a lot of people have a lot of free time on their hands to just sit there and watch rappers literally do songs that you can actually get on your Apple Music or whatever. But I can dig it, right? It's cool. It is what it is. And I think that at some point, if if the Versus concept has not been sold yet, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets sold at some point. I don't think it's a matter of saying we're going to just hold this and never sell anything ever because we want to just make sure we own this. I think they're trying to grow the baby to an adequate size so that they can sell the baby, right? And I think that that's fine. I mean, as a business move, I think it works. I don't have any issue with it. The only issue was the politicians being involved. I think entertainment and music are often used to convince Black people to do certain things, and I don't like it at all. But beyond that, if you take the politicians out of it, it's standard business models, right? And one thing that's interesting too is I was wondering if the artists get paid on these Versus battles. What do the artists get paid? And I did some research on it. I could not find anything that said that the artists are getting paid. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Versus battles pay the artists. Now, Cheryl says, how can you speak on it? Never watched it. So you're right. You caught me, Cheryl. I did watch enough to know that I didn't really, that I have better things to do, like spend time with my kids, work on my business, things like that, but it's okay. It's fine. Right. But here's the thing. So I was researching this and I could not find any information about artists being paid. And so what that made me think about is it made me wonder. Now, okay, first of all, we know that artists benefit from being on Versus, right? You go on Versus, your streams, your downloads, all that stuff goes up. You're popular again, right? They're pulling these dead brands or these brands that have kind of become dormant, and they're putting them back out in the public eye. That's a wonderful thing. But one of the things that really made me think was, I said, whatever side benefits they're getting, like let's say if they get extra streams or whatever the case may be, what is that enough? Is that really enough, or is it a reflection of the desperation on the part of the artist? Because when I was see Monica versus Brandy or all the other Versus battles, it's clear the Versus people are making money, right? We know Swizz Beats and his crew. We know they're getting paid. We know Apple Music, whoever owns the platform, is going to make money. And it made me wonder if the artists were making any money. Now, if the artists make a deal to come on there for free, then that doesn't mean that it's stupid. That doesn't mean that that they don't see the benefit. So in a contract's a contract. If you agreed to go on there, then you're grown. You can make your own decision. But it made me wonder if artists are that desperate that they will go on for free because they're kind of looking for anything that they can get, right? A lot of artists, I think with COVID, COVID shut down a lot of touring. They can't do concerts like they used to, things like that. And a lot of artists, one thing about artists, entertainers, is that a lot of entertainers convince you that they're extremely rich and doing extremely well. And a lot of them just aren't, especially the ones that don't understand business. Now Marina says maybe they're getting an envelope. Maybe they are. I hope that they are. I hope that they're getting something, Let me see. Why are you so vested in talking about something that matters? Well, why are you so vested in being on my live stream, Star? You should probably just go. Why don't you just go? Ain't you got something better to do? Let me see. Let's see. DJ says it does help the artists who have fallen out of the main music cycle. I agree with you on that. I think that is a great service. Tyler Perry does that. when he has a movie and he brings back maybe some, actors and actresses that you haven't seen since the '90s. I think that's great. Ice Cube does that with the Big Three League. He brings back artists that, or some not artists, athletes that are still popular and still talented. They just can't play in the NBA. I think that's great, right? T Time says they're getting more exposure. Yeah, and I think that's good, but I also wonder, if you're an artist and you've already got 2 million Instagram followers, how much do you need versus, for additional exposure? What is it that they're actually getting? So I would love to. Oh, it helps when you get an album dropping. Okay, that's good too. I can see that. Let me see. Let me put that up there. Yeah, well, that's a good point too. I guess if I had an album dropping, I would definitely want to be on a versus. And again, just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean you're not getting compensated, right? Just because they're not getting paid doesn't mean that they're not benefiting. They're rational people, so I assume that they're getting some benefit. But I wonder, how much money are they getting? How much money is the company worth? How much revenue is coming through on these advertising deals? How much does the Democratic Party pay to bring one of their candidates on, right? And I think that's an interesting one too, because the underlying assumption is that if you're black, you have to be a Democrat. And I think just me rebelling against that, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I voted Libertarian. I voted third party because I was like, you're not gonna make me vote without actually giving me something for my vote. You're not gonna make me vote by scaring me. You're not gonna make me vote by telling me that that's what everybody else is doing. I don't follow the crowd like that. My daddy raised me better than that. So if you want my vote, you have to earn it. You have to explain to me why I'm voting for you. If you can't explain it, then that means that you don't get my vote. To hell with you, man. Like, I ain't no sucker. So let me see. Jay Wood says, I thought it was sold to Apple. Was it? I could not find an article about that. Let me look. Let me see. Let me see here. Hit the thumbs up button, by the way. Please hit the thumbs up button. Let me see if I can find. I'm Googling this right now. Right now, we are Googling this issue. Let me see. Apple purchase versus. Apple probably did, but I mean, if they haven't bought it yet, they're eventually going to buy it because Apple has a ton of money. Apple Music partners with Verzuz, bringing Battle Series. So if Apple Music is partnering with Verzuz, that right there tells you that a multi-million-dollar deal was probably made. Like if Apple even sneezes in your direction, that means your bank account's gonna be overloaded. Like your bank account's gonna be flooded, right? So that's what it is. Can you explain why you voted Libertarian? Asked Robert. I voted Libertarian because I like liberty. I like freedom. I like people doing what they want to do. I'm not really offended by what choices you make with your life, as long as you don't impact the choices that I make with my life. So that's why. So Libertarian kind of fit with me the most in terms of my personality. The only other thing I saw was Green Party, and I ain't into that. Alicia voted Green Party, but I'm not into that stuff. All right. So anyway, let's see here. The article says this is in Variety, published July 20th. The already impressive audience for the Versus Battle Series, which pits one OG artist or producer against another, playing their hits, is about to get even bigger. Versus is coming to Apple Music and Beats One. The first session will take place Wednesday, July 22nd, with Snoop Dogg versus DMX. Let's see here. The events have gathered 414,000 viewers per IG event. The numbers have gone up, especially since they connect with Apple Music. I'm looking here to see if there's any numbers listed. There's no money listed here, but yeah. So they're making money from this, and it's fine. I mean, that's what happens. Usually, if something great happens in the Black community in the entertainment space, a white person comes along and writes a big check. Like that's like really, as Black people, one of the things you have to really think about is that that you're kind of like a pet, a pet to white supremacy, right? Like we're born in this cage, and we don't know that we're in a cage. Some of us, because we haven't thought about white supremacy enough to even know what the cage looks like and what it's shaped like or anything like that. And so we're born in this cage, and we know how to operate within this cage. And what happens, unfortunately, it's very odd, is that the person who built the cage is almost like a god for us. And I was thinking about, like, what is a god to you, right? And I started thinking about 1,000 years ago. how maybe, you know, maybe if there were aliens who came through and maybe they did some things, built some things, created some things, and people will see these aliens come in, and the aliens have the superior technology or whatever, they can control certain things, and they will be like gods to them. And you know, and it made me think about black people and how black people are born in the middle of white supremacy. We're born in this white supremacist system where white people control the politics that we're committed to, they control the education we're committed to, they control the media we're committed to, and they control the economics that we're committed to, right? So they control the economic system, the media, the educational system, and the politics, right? You don't control none of that. You're just a player. You're a pawn in the game, but you're not actually the person that's actually controlling the chess pieces. You are a chess piece. So if you think about this, right, and you're born in the middle of the system, and you realize that by appealing to those who control the system, you can get what you want from the system, right? Like if I'm a black man and I'm trying to get ahead financially and I make white people happy, then I'm gonna get paid. Now, this is not me talking about Swizz Beats and Timbaland. I'm really getting on to some other stuff right now. So don't even take this as a diss track or anything. I'm processing it out loud for those of you that want to stay. Those of you who don't want to stay, then you should probably just go, because this is I'm gonna get a little deep here. But I thought about this, right? So you live in this cage of white supremacy where you got four systems: politics, economics, media, and education. Yeah, politics, economics, media, and education. Politics, economics, media, and education. Okay. So in each of these areas, as a black person, you only get ahead in these systems if you appeal to white people. If they like you, if they don't like you, then you get punished, right? If I want to become a leading, figure in American politics, I become a black Democrat and do whatever the Democrats do, and they reward me for that, right? If I want to get ahead economically, I go and kiss my boss's ass, and my boss gives me money or whatever. I do something that the boss likes. Maybe, that's why you see some artists that unfortunately become like minstrel shows because they're trying to please the boss. Same thing is true with media. If I want to be on TV, CNN. Look, has anybody ever noticed how many gay black men CNN and MSNBC hire? It's no disrespect to the LGBT community, but literally gay privilege is a real thing on those networks. Jonathan Capehart, Don Lemon, all those guys, right? And but when you talk about masculine straight black men, there's really not a space for you. So the point is, here's what I'm getting at. I thought about this today. When you're born inside a system created by somebody else, and you must appeal to that person or group in order for you to advance within that system, then that person or group has effectively become your God. Think about what you do when you pray to God. You pray to God and you please God, because if you please God, God will reward you. Am I right or am I right? Tell me, when you go to church, what are people trying to do in church? Well, praise God, don't disrespect God, don't use God's name in vain. God is angry with me. God bless me, right? You're constantly praising God to say, God, if I praise you enough, will you take care of me? I will not upset you. I will do what you want me to do, right? Well, basically, if you are in a white supremacist system, the white man is your God. He becomes your God, because if you want to get ahead, if you're committed to the white supremacist economic system, and you want to get ahead, then you better please a white man. If you don't please a white man, then you will fail. All right, seriously, does anybody know a masculine black man who has confronted the white man and succeeded at a high level, deeply embedded in the white man system? It don't happen. It does not. If it happens, you got lucky, or if it happened, you did a rope a dope. Maybe you changed your tune after you got the power. After the shucking and jiving was over, right? The educational system. If I want to go to school in a white supremacist educational system and make good grades, I need to know things like European history. I need to know how to please my white teacher. I need to know how to get into Harvard and Yale. I need to know how to commit to their system and do what they want me to do. So effectively, what occurs is that if you're not thoughtful about the systems that you're born in and the cage that you're born in, then you can effectively end up putting your oppressor in the position of a god, right? So this is not me talking about Swizz Beats and Timbaland. I don't move past all that. Dude, I'm not dissing them at all. I'm happy for these guys. I think they created a great concept. But what I'm referring to is, if I was to talk about them and put them into any of that context, Verzuz was probably created to celebrate the culture, yes, but really it was to appeal. It was to please God. It was to please the economic gods. It was to please the economic gods. The economic god is Apple Music. Apple Music is worth over $1 trillion. Apple Music could write a check with their lunch money. They could write a check right now with lunch money that could literally transfer the entire Black community overnight. Like Apple Music makes so much money that they could write a tiny check and change all of your lives just like that. So basically, if you appeal to Apple Music, if we create a culture or we create music or we create entertainment that makes Apple Music happy, then they will write a check. The economic gods will bless you. And then next thing you know, you're extremely wealthy. That's why you don't hear many of your entertainers fighting against the economic gods. That's why you saw Nick Cannon when he got tested, he buckled pretty badly. You know, you saw him shucking and jiving and foot shuffling and moving backward and spinning around and minimizing himself because he had displeased the gods. When you saw Snoop Dogg come out pretty bold, pretty aggressive against Gayle King, well, all that whole tune changed when the gods let him know that they were displeased with his behavior. When the economic gods stepped down, when Zeus, white man Zeus, the economic Zeus, stepped down and said, "Boy, I'm going to banish you to hell," then Snoop got real apologetic because he realized he had angered the gods. So I know that we started talking about Verzuz. I know we started talking about Timbaland and Swizz Beats, and this is not this whole sort of extrapolation is not designed on any level to be disrespectful or dismissive to these guys at all. But it's really to help you understand the landscape. If you want to know why it was after Apple Music partnered, quote unquote, partnered with them on this Versus thing. Think about this. After they partnered with them, that's when you started seeing all the silly stuff. That's when you start seeing Kamala Harris just popping in like, "Hey, I'm Kamala. I'm running for president or vice president. I just happened to be walking by and I just saw you guys were doing a Versus tonight." Or, "Hey, I'm Stacey Abrams. We running for office, y'all. Y'all need to show up and vote, y'all." Right? Because they weren't sent by the people. They were sent down by the gods. They weren't sent by none of y'all. How many of y'all want to see Stacey Abrams, old funny looking ass on screen? Like, shit, Stacey Abrams is not somebody that any of us thinks about on a daily basis. We don't give a damn about Stacey Abrams. Some of you may like her. I'm not saying you shouldn't like her, but seriously, if you're there to enjoy the culture, if you're there to watch, I don't know, Snoop Dogg versus DMX or whatever these battles are. I don't know them all. Gucci Mane versus Jeezy. Do you really want to see Stacey Abrams pop in the middle of your fucking screen while you're trying to enjoy the culture, enjoy the music? No, you don't. Nobody ordered Stacey Abrams on the menu, so you got to ask, how does you go to a restaurant, you expect a filet mignon with some mashed potatoes and some green beans, and right in the middle of all of that, they drop a big old like a rock and a turd in the middle of your plate, and you like, why? If I ordered filet mignon, mashed potatoes, and green beans, why did I get a rock and a turd in the middle of my plate? I didn't order. Who ordered the turd? Somebody ordered the turd. So with Stacey Abrams, you got to ask yourself, how did you get on the screen? Where did you come from? Who ordered you? The people didn't order you. The artist didn't order you. Jeezy sitting up there looking all awkward and stuff, trying to pretend like this is natural. We know it ain't natural, right? I don't think Swizz Beats and Timbaland ordered you. Well, she was sent by the gods. Well, who are the economic gods? Apple Music. Apple Music is running every bit of that motherfucker. Like Apple Music is like, "Oh, we'll give you the illusion of inclusion or the illusion of power. We will allow you to feel like you think you might be free, but really you ain't free because the person who writes the big check is the one who's got the power." So that's why I go back to my point that Black people got to learn how to write big checks, or at least have the guts to actually outright own things and never sell them ever to anybody for any reason. Even if they can write a big check, even if they can give you more distribution, even if they can give you more legitimacy and credibility, maybe you got to build some of that from scratch. And I'm not dissing. I'm not dissing. I want to make sure that this is not a diss. This is not me saying, "Oh, Swizz Beats and Timbaland, man, they sold out. This Versus stuff is whack." No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just trying to break it down for you so you understand how this world works. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on Timbaland and Swizz Beats and Versus and the Versus battles. I hope they keep doing them. I think they're good. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not gonna watch them. I watch a couple minutes and again I'm like, okay, this is the stuff I can see on my Spotify. But I get it. I get it. Some people like concerts and Alicia took me to an Aretha Franklin concert one time. And shoot, I mean, I just thought she was the prettiest thing in the world. So I would have went to any concert with her. She took me to an Aretha Franklin concert and an Anthony Hamilton concert. Now I'm a scientist, right? So I observe behavior. Like when a friend of mine got married and we went to a strip club as part of the bachelor the bachelor stuff. I was in there observing. I was really observing strip club culture, and I was like, okay, I can see why people enjoy this. This is really interesting, right? So I remember I gained a great appreciation for Anthony Hamilton singing. This man can really sing. Aretha Franklin is the absolute goat, and I get why people go to concerts. But I think that what I also would like to say too, though, is that there should also be a shout out for those of you who sometimes see things happening in the culture and you say, that just seems like a waste of time for me. Or maybe, I rather than putting $100 to do this, I think I'd rather take my $100 and do that, right? Or maybe instead of spending 3, 4, 5 hours going out again, every weekend, maybe I can spend those 3, 4, 5 hours studying and learning a new skill or working on something else or whatever it is you want to do, right? There should be room for all of that across the board. And anybody who thinks that being Black means that you have to want to go to concerts and you have to be into music and you have to be into, all this stuff, these versus battles and all that, I think that's very wrong. That's putting Black people in the box. And a lot of you who don't fit in that box, my argument is that while you might feel like you're kind of an outcast, you might feel like you don't fit in, you might feel a little awkward because all your friends know who's doing the next versus battle and you don't even know. Well, I'm gonna tell you, there's benefits to not being in the box. Not being in the box means you're free of the box. People who are not in the box actually understand the box better than people that are in the box. When they study little children, the little children in kindergarten, the kids that are that don't have any friends, that are kind of sitting to the side where everybody's playing, the kids who actually are sitting to the side, this is true story, the kids that are sitting to the side watching, who don't have a lot of friends, they understand more about the environment than kids who are in the environment. Like they are, because the kids are in the environment who are playing and running and jumping and getting into fights and whatever, they're so in it that they don't understand it. Like they can't see the big picture. Whereas the kid who's sitting on the side watching can say, "Oh yeah, I know what happens. Whenever Billy comes in, he plays with Tommy, and Terry sits with Cindy, and then Cindy and Becky don't like each other, right?" Like these kids understand it, and there's something really valuable when you can see the big picture. Because when you live in America and you're Black, and you live in a white supremacist environment, the Black people that are best able to overcome white supremacy are the people who can see the big picture. So that's why I tell you guys, learn how to see the big picture. Be okay with that. Like really embrace that. Be proud of that, because that gives you a superpower that a lot of people don't have. So let's not fall for the illusion. Let's keep focusing on the big picture. And that's what I am. I'm a big picture guy. So when I see the versus battles happening, I'm watching Black folks run back and forth and go crazy over who they think won the battle. I'm seeing the big picture. But I ain't gonna lie, I'm not really in it like that. Like, but I understand enough about it to adapt to it. Like, I've been on the Breakfast Club, I think maybe 4 or 5 times or something. Every time I go on the Breakfast Club, I study the Breakfast Club the same way the white man studies you. I study hip hop culture the same way white supremacists study you when they're trying to decide how they want to get something done in the Black community. I study that. And then I can go in there and be of it. But then when I step back and I'm really thinking about trying to be a king in my space, I realize a king can't mentally be constantly caught in the masses. I think that's what I'd like to see from some of you, because some of you have king queen ability, but if you spend all your time following the crowd, then you can never be a leader. A leader needs to understand the crowd, empathize with the crowd, but the leader should not be following the crowd. So have that awareness. There you go. Awareness is a good word. I like that word. All right. So anyway, I'm going to go, guys. I hope that this was helpful. This was me just pontificating. I'm literally actually sitting in the bathtub while I do this. I know that's a weird visual, but I might as well be honest. So I hope you guys have a good night. And thank you for listening. By the way, I have a podcast on Spotify. I know I don't get as much attention as I would if I was a rapper, but if you want to go check it out, it's the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. So you can go to Spotify and search for the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. You can find me there. And also my Twitter. There's my Twitter handle, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. And you can text the word Boyce to 31996 and you get text alerts when I go live. Text Boyce to 31996. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good night. Thank you for listening. I'll see you soon. Peace.